I just finished a story time talking about oversharing, and we're going to be talking about something that is completely TMI. But I think it's important to address because I know when this was happening to me, I was an emotional wreck. I was freaking out, and I didn't know what the fuck to do. And I was a teenager. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? But I think information is so crucial when talking about sexual health and how to stay safe, how to go about things, and for future partners, like what you can do about things. So we're gonna be talking about, oh my god, I don't even know if I could like say this, but I have an STI. It's called herpes simplex 2, and there's two types. There's herpes simplex 1, herpes simplex 2. Herpes simplex 1 is oral herpes, and basically it's just like cold sores that you get in your mouth. So many people have it. It's like a huge majority of the population that they have it, and you just spread it through like saliva or whatever. And then genital herpes are in the nether regions. And this is like such a really interesting fact about this, but like whenever you come into contact with the virus, the reason why it um what would you say? Like you would really only see it like in the lower half of your body, so like from your butt to your ankles. I don't know if it reaches all the way to your ankles, but the reason it sticks like in that lower area is because whenever the virus comes in, it gets comfortable, we'll just put it in that way, in the lower part of your spinal cord. And that connects to the lower part of your body. Like that's really interesting though, like why you'd see that down there versus the other one up here. You know what I mean? Um I remember exactly when I had my first outbreak. I think that's why I really wanted to tell the story because oh my god, like I have been thinking for so many fucking years, like, how did this happen to me? Like, I don't remember like who I came into contact with. I don't remember like when I had my first outbreak, but then I remembered this. So we as a family, we would take trips to go visit family. And while I was in another state, I was like, you know what? You know what? Let's have some fun. And I went with this one guy. I met up with this one guy. He kind of like drove me out to this field. This is completely taking a turn. He drove me out to this field, and we were literally next to cows, like in a car. Like I could hear the cows like while we were in the car. And a big reason why I'm telling this is like it's about skin to skin. Like we were pretty much like completely naked, but like our skin was touching. So like that's a way that you can like transmit herpes simplex 2. And the reason why I'm like still even so confused is like we didn't even like he performed fellatio on me, but I didn't even like perform anything on him. But we had that skin to skin. Like and it was so dark, like I didn't even see like what his nether region looked like. So like you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's scary. But yeah, we were next to some cows. They were mooing and gooing and all this shit. um what else? Oh my gosh, this is again completely going into the realm of oversharing. Like I addressed that in the last video, but like this is such a crazy story though, because like whenever he was performing fellatio or whatever, I orgasmed like back to back. And I've never had that before. It's like I literally had like two back to back. Bitch, I was seeing stars. Like literally what the fuck? What the actual fuck? Like, okay, I felt like I was transcending. We had a fun time. And then we go back. And the next day I remember just like in my nether regions, like I had so many just like red bumps like in my area. And it was just so itchy. Like I felt like I just had like the worst rash and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I initially thought like, oh my god, I think I got something. Um and the reason why I'm like, oh my god, this was probably my first outbreak because um I was not doing well. It was hot. I felt like I had a fever. I was not doing well. It itched so bad. And again, like we didn't like do anything. You know what I mean? So like a lot of people don't like what would you call it? Um a lot of people think you need to be doing like literally the most to like get things, but a lot of people like it literally just happens from like we were laying on top of each other. You know what I mean? Like we were completely naked and there's always going to be a risk talking about transmission. There's always like some type of risk like transmitting it to another person, but there's like completely safe ways to go about it. You can get on medication. It'll bring your outbreaks down. And outbreaks when the virus is like active. So like think if you have herpes type 1, like a cold sore, like if you have it in your mouth, that would be it being active if you have a cold sore in your mouth. But if you get I don't know, it kind of just looks like a little pimple, like the outbreak for like a HSV2. So you'll get kind of like this pimple looking thing, um and that would be your outbreak. So like that's when you want to like avoid like contact in general, is like when you have that type of you know reaction. Like, but if it's dormant and like the transmission's obviously like much lower, and it's a lot more common than you think. I think they say 1 in 5 sexually active adults have it. That's a lot of fucking people. And it's really only going to show when you're super stressed, if you're immunocompromised, um, or there's certain areas that you're like not taking care of yourself. So if you're kind of like not drinking enough water, not eating enough, like that can affect that too. I think my main indicator is going to be stress and times when I don't have enough time to take care of myself. Um, but yeah, I mean, most of it's stigma. It's really not as bad as people say, especially when you know how to treat it. And you can have full-blown sex with it. Like, there's so many different ways that, like, you can express yourself sexually. Um, it doesn't have to be the traditional way. And when it is the traditional way, um, even my doctor at the time when I got diagnosed, she's like, dude, like, it's not as crazy as you think. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I went to a married couple and just swapped one of them and they had it. You know what I mean? Like, it's about taking care of yourself, um, education on what these things mean, and what we do about it. Because most people have cold sores in their mouth and there's no stigma around that. Um, but when it's down there, it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, there's safe ways to go about it. Again, not transmitting it as much. But especially over time, my tolerance and like understanding and dealing with the outbreaks is just like far less. You know what I mean? But I mean, when I do get them, like sometimes it is a little debilitating. Like if it's like bad enough, it's not fun. It's not fun. But I mean, there are ways to take care of it, especially though most times that you would see people do treatment with it is when the outbreaks are bad. So like a lot of people don't even get on medication because they're literally fine. A lot of people don't show symptoms. Most of the people who have it don't show symptoms. Um and I'm not gonna link any resources. I'm just here to talk about it. I'm here to talk about my own experience. Um Oh my god, this is a crazy fact. So I was getting STD tested a lot when I was sexually active, as you do, because you think you're being responsible. Conveniently enough, on the screening panel, they never test for herpes where I went. And the reason they don't is because it's a lot less severe than people think. And it's like a conversation to be had when it's like, we probably, like, they'd rather avoid the conversation in general, just because it's mostly stigma and it's less about the actual virus. And most people say that who have it, like, it's not like a death sentence. Even though whenever you get diagnosed, it can feel that way. You know what I mean? Um, but just know I'm here for you. You'll find love. I honestly am so shocked with like how many people are so loving and accepting. Like my friends. I never told my family. If they ever find this video, that's crazy. Look away, look away. Um, People who I have romantic interest in. Even people who I was like just gonna hook up with. Like a lot of people were just like, "Oh my god!" Like, okay. Some people would say like, "Oh my god, I have that too," which is crazy. Like, oh, you weren't gonna tell me. I know I just told them, but like, there have been a few instances where I'm like, oh, like, people just don't want to talk about that. And I think that is probably my number one advice is just talk about it. Like I think it's important to just communicate with people, especially people you know you were going to actively like sleep with. Like you shouldn't actively like do that knowing you have that. Like even though um it can be dormant, not it can be dormant, most of the time it's dormant and not, you don't have an outbreak most of the time. The transmission does go a lot lower, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't tell people about that. Like that's like really important to tell people. I'd rather like have the transmission be like so low, but like have them know, you know what I mean, because that's like a decision they should make for themselves. um but I think being transparent has really opened my eyes to there's a lot less um what would you call it, shallowness than I thought. And like it makes me even like look at myself like the way that I thought before my diagnosis versus now, because I would have been like so scared like before, but like um knowledge is so key, and like now that I know, like it's not as scary, you know what I mean. But yeah, just tell your partners. I do think in there's like counseling you can do with like a provider, like to give you the best like thing that you can go about, how to live your life the most normally that you can, which for the most part, for however many people, a majority of people, like life just goes on as normal. Like it's not a debilitating diagnosis. Like you're gonna be fine. There's ways around it. And honestly, there are like upsides to it. Like you could even think like whenever you have a flare up, it can indicate other areas of your life that like, maybe you should pay more attention to this. Like maybe I should work on my stress in general. Maybe I should work on trying to get more water, eat better. And I think that actually does motivate me to work a lot more on those things because, I don't want myself to just be hurting all the time. Like, that's not fun either. But for the most part, it's dormant. Um, it's a lot of stigma. It just sounds bad. You know what I mean? And life moves on from it. Life moves on. One thing that I think this is literally fake news and like meant to smear Britney Spears, but one thing that got me through it is like I saw an article be like, "Oh, Britney Spears has herpes," and like here's her story or whatever. But I don't even think that's true. I think they were literally just trying to like smear her. I don't think that's right. Like I don't think that info should probably even necessarily be out. But it kind of helped me in my mind, like, oh, if she has it, like, I'm happy to have it. Because, like, they did, like, this weird thing during her time where, like, oh my god, the slut shaming for Britney Spears was insane. Like, she literally just, like, wanted to have fun on a stage and, like, just, kind of just have fun. And, like, everyone had an issue with it. Like, I don't know. So I think that was a bit of a smear. But the reason I say this is the whole reason why, like, I want to tell it. Because I think just knowing that, like, um, people have things, people move on from things, things are a lot more normal than, like, people say they are. It helps you deal with them. It helps you deal with them. And I've seen so many, like, shorts, just, like, people talking about it, videos, people talk about it, and it made me feel so much better. I was spiraling when I first heard about this, and, like, honestly, for the first year or two, like, it really, like, I took, like, a complete step back from dating. I took a complete step back from, like, even interacting with people romantically, because it was just, like, so shameful. And it shouldn't be shameful. Like, it is, like, it's a lot more normal than people think. It's a lot less severe than people think. And there's life to be lived, Like, we live in a day and age where there's a lot of treatments available for a lot of things. And, um, oh, I never even said this in the beginning, but since it is a virus, it is not curable. So there are going to be, you'll even see, like, when I was first starting to look into everything, like, there's so many, like, literally just fake cures out there. Like, literally, like, that's crazy, trying to capitalize off that. Just fear and, like, propaganda. But, like, just embrace it. Like, oh my god, I've heard stories too. People are in literally monogamous couples. They get into their first relationship and the other person gives them herpes. Like, just talk with it with your partner. Like, you can find ways to do things without transmitting it. I know I'm trying to learn how to do that now, but, like, I think it's just important to talk about that because it feels scary at first. And trust me, I'm, like, just, like, a clean freak. So, like, I'm always washing my hands. I'm always doing these things. And, like, that really put a dent in that and made it worse, where I'm, like, constantly washing my hands because I'm like, oh, I don't want to transmit. Or, like, oh, I don't want to, um, but it's a lot less severe and there's life to be lived. There is life to be lived, bitch. Like, don't think that it's this shameful thing. Just let people know, communicate, and we move on. We move on to bigger, better things. Like, it's, like, so not interesting. But, bitch, tell people about it. Tell people about it. And when I say tell people about it that you're close to, or that you are going to have sexual relations with. Do not, like, have sex with people and not tell them about that. That's crazy. And I will say, like, whenever I found out, like, they had, like, the whole sheet or whatever, they weren't testing at the STD center or whatever. All the people that I had from that partner to the last partner of that specific era, like, was exposed to that. Like, that fucking sucks. Like, okay, like, I get, like, there's, it's a lot more fear mongering of an issue. But, like, if I'm actively getting tested, and I think I'm getting tested for this whole panel, and it's just conveniently left out, there's a problem there. There's a problem there, because that, I mean, I know I'm trying to say, like, okay, it's more stigma, less about the actual virus, but, like, that needs to be addressed as well. Like, that's not, I don't think that's cool. And I really beat myself up, especially during that time. Like, oh my god, I feel horrible that, like, I probably gave it to them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, you think you're getting tested and you're just not for that specific place. And the reason I know that they didn't test for that specific thing is, whenever I went to actually go get tested, they told me, oh, on the drug panel that you were taking for, STD testing, like they didn't test for that. And looking up online, it does say like a majority of places don't do it because it's just a lot more hassle than it's worth. And it's like, damn, like, again, I do think it's a conversation to be had, like, more than just people, but, you know, we learn from things, we move on, and there's always hope for the future. And don't give up on hope ever, honestly. Even just in general, like, things will be okay. Things will be okay. We are in an age, too, where, like, there's so much science and medicine that's being discovered and, like, new things, like, that there's a lot going on right now. Oh my god, especially in America, there is a lot going on right now. Like, y'all fucking know what the fuck I'm talking about. But in the realm of science and medicine, like, shit, like, things are pretty progressive. Like, that's dope. And, like, even without medicine, a lot of people don't show symptoms. Like, that's just fact. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know they even have it, which is also crazy. Um, but yeah. I guess let me know your thoughts down below. I think I kind of wanted to give random tidbits, my own story, and especially because I recognized, like, um, whenever I contracted it, I'm like, oh, this is something on my mind right now. I should probably talk about it. Let's just talk. But yeah, that's all I had to say. I hope you have a great one. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.